Okay, I'm finally ready to declare it. Sam Howell is the Commanders' future franchise quarterback. I've finally seen enough. Washington just put together a nice little 20-17 win over the Patriots, and Sam Howell, he played well again. He finished 29 of 45 for 325 yards. He also had a touchdown and an interception. Now, the touchdown to Jahan Dotson was absolutely beautiful. The touch on this pass couldn't have been much better. This is one of those throws that leave you thinking that Sam Howell is an NFL quarterback and can truly be the future of this team. Also, great play from Jahan Dotson. This was just an incredible play. It was going around Twitter. Great play from Sam Howell. This is one of the reasons why this team thinks he's the future. And then you see him scramble later in the game for a first down. Of course, that may not have even been Sam Howell's best play of the day. He somehow managed to scramble for a first down on 3rd and 23. How often do you think a quarterback scrambles for a first down on 3rd and 23? Probably like never. Somehow he picks it up. This is just incredible again by Sam. Now, I will say you got to take the good with the bad. This guy's still a second year. He's his first year starting, and that pick was very ugly. I have no clue what he's looking at in the end zone. We watched it through. I saw the replay, kept trying to figure out, just not quite sure here. I really wish Ron Rivera would have called a timeout before this play. Not sure why they didn't. Time's ticking down. Instead, you kind of force this. Maybe Howell feels a little off schedule here. Regardless, he can't make this throw. It's terrible. He even said that it is one of the worst plays he's made in his entire football career. And look, he's absolutely right. I mean, that was terrible, but he responded well. And Ron Rivera knew he was going to respond well. Now, that pick was to end the first half, and this was just incredibly frustrating as a fan because it just felt like one of those games that Washington was gonna lose. They'd been out playing New England, yet they're losing at the half. They're outgaining them. Everything's gone their way, and they're losing. Well, Brian Robinson had a fumble, and that set up the Patriots offense real well, and Mac Jones hit Hunter Henry for a 14-yard touchdown. Washington was up 10-0 before that. That made it 10-7, and then later, Ramondre Stevenson breaks off for a 64-yard touchdown, and suddenly Washington is down 14-10 at the half. Now, luckily, Washington did respond, but man, I'll tell you what, third quarter had me fuming. I'm losing it. Rookie defensive end KJ Henry, who was fantastic at Clemson, he had a huge strip sack on Mac Jones, and instead, it was called roughing the passer. One of the worst roughing the passer calls I've seen. Now, these have been a problem for the last couple years, but what on earth is he supposed to do here? This is a blindside strip sack, and he kind of tries to come back over on top of him, you know, kind of like roll over him. Yeah, he puts some of the weight on him, but man, dude, what? This is football. This went from it being a strip sack, Commanders ball, to instead roughing the passer essentially sets up New England for a free 3 points. Then to make things worse, Emmanuel Forbes has a really good play on the ball, and it's blatant offensive pass interference. He probably should have picked it off. No call. That's back-to-back, and I'm losing it. It's a quick stretch that really could have changed the entire game. It gifted the Patriots 3 free points, and I mean, this officiating crew is terrible. There were so many missed calls, like Logan Thomas getting held like crazy in the end zone that made Washington settle for a field goal. It was a terribly officiated game, and that goes for both sides. I more or less just know my own frustrations. Washington definitely got the grunt of it, but this is just the officials were terrible in this one. Yet it felt like the biggest penalty of the game was actually Mack Wilson, who was offsides on a Washington punt that gave them the ball back with less than 3 minutes remaining. It let Washington kill even more clock. Eventually, New England did get down to a pretty solid spot at the end of regulation, and then it was picked off by Quant Martin, the rookie out of Illinois. Now, this one wasn't even on Mac Jones for what it's worth. This one's all on Juju Smith-Schuster. It hits his hands and essentially ends up costing the Patriots the game, and he knows that. You have to make the catch there. That one just kind of stings, and it makes Mac look even worse and just what's already been a bit of a frustrating season. But how about Quant Martin, man? The second-round rookie out of Illinois. He has not seen a lot of playtime. It was one of those picks that's been scrutinized because Washington essentially hasn't been playing him, and they said, Jack Del Rio and Ron Rivera said it's because that they have so much much depth of position. Then why did you draft him in the second round when you could have used probably some offensive linemen? It just doesn't make a ton of sense. It's one of those shortcomings as an organization that we keep seeing. But finally, he's out there. He looks solid. He made some big time plays. That pick, good for him. He essentially ends the game. And there's been a lot of talk about how little we've seen from the Commanders rookie class because it's been bad, man. It's been ugly. It's been frustrating to see, but this was by far the rookie's best game. Quant Martin with the game winner. Emmanuel Forbes had his best game as a pro. Now, that's easier against the Patriots than anybody else. You know, their wide receivers were bad. Now they suck. Kendrick Bourne tore his ACL. Devontae Parker didn't even play because he was out with a concussion. Essentially, you lose your top two guys there, and then you're kind of just working with, you know, Demario Douglas. And it's pretty ugly from there. Forbes was on Jalen Reagor a lot. We all know how bad he is. So it's not like Forbes was playing out of his mind, but it really helps him build some confidence up, and that might be all that kid needs. Chris Rodriguez, rookie out of Kentucky, running back. He had a great play on special teams. He got Pop Douglas down deep on a punt. Huge play. I liked what I saw from KJ Henry, defensive end out of Clemson, who was involved in that roughing the passer. Thought he played well, and he needed to. I mean, this team just traded away Montez Sweat and Chase Young. This was a much needed win, and it makes me hopeful, not just for the future, but more or less just because of Sam Howell. It's been reported now Washington does believe he is the future, and just watching this team, hearing what these guys are saying, the locker room believes that, and they should. It's been a great stretch. There's always going to be issues with a young quarterback, especially as somebody as young as Howell, who only spent 3 years in college, didn't play a lot last year. There's always going to be growing pains, but he's looked the part so many times. I mean, this guy has thrown nearly 1,000 yards over the last 3 games, and it does feel like he just keeps getting better. And I do think some of the credit there needs to go to Eric Bieniemy. He's a guy that I think I've been pretty harsh on so far this season. There's been a lot of times where I've been frustrated with EB's play calling, what he's been doing. That Giants game where Washington only scored 7 points, that is still just a complete mess in my mind. You can't only score 7 against that bad of a Giants team. You can't lose to that Giants team. That's still frustrating just looking back. But Bieniemy has done a solid job, and I think the play calling has slowly shifted to being built around Sam Howell, and more or less getting the ball out a little faster, doing the right play calls, so how bad the offensive line doesn't matter as much. Last 2 weeks, the sack situation has been much better. I feel like Sam Howell's been getting rid of it when he needs to, doing the smart thing, but also a lot of credit goes to Tyler Larsen. When Tyler Larsen has been at center for this team over the last 2 years, they have been winning football games. I know I'm over here talking about a center for a football team with a young, fun quarterback, but Tyler Larsen has been huge for this team. They just keep finding a way to win with him. Getting those sacks down has been one of the biggest things for Sam. Sam's still been extending the plays, but being a little smarter with it. He had a fantastic play against New England where the pocket's starting to collapse in. He's able to run out to the side. Now, I know this isn't exactly what you're teaching these guys. This isn't necessarily what you want, but the fact that he's able to run away and still kind of see a defensive breakdown on the left side of the field and get it out over to his open receiver, who has no one even anywhere close to him, is a fantastic play. Sam Howell just kept making play after play in this one. And the new focus, it needs to be rebuilding this team and focusing it around Sam Howell. I will say, watching that game, it was just surreal that I was watching Washington go to New England and not only be the better team, but have the better quarterback situation. Like, Mac Jones, I don't think is the guy, but suddenly Sam Howell might be. He's a guy I liked a lot coming out of North Carolina, and here we are. He's been a lot better than Kenny Pickett, who was the first quarterback taken in that draft, the only in the first round. Really, the only quarterback from 2022 class that's been better is Brock Purdy, who's on a stacked team and has seen a little bit of struggles recently, but I think he's going to figure it all out. Honestly, at this point, I just have so much faith in Sam Howell. Now, whether or not it works out years down the road, we're going to see. But for now, there's hope and promise in Washington. And you haven't been able to say that for a long time. Just please, at least at the end of the season, still fire Ron Rivera and Jack Del Rio. We still need to clean house.